Hello everyone, Maurice and welcome to Thanks Invest. Talk about investing, finance, and personal development. For today's video attempts only. The investment on top of today will be Ethereum ticker ETH. I know it's my second video that I'm posting again today, and hope everybody had a great Sunday so far and a great weekend, by the way. I had a relatively good Sunday. I just got home. I spent basically the whole entire day just biking. I typically pick one spot, so I start from Midtown in New York City, and I go all the way to Uptown in Manhattan to Harlem, and then subsequently roll back to Midtown, and I gave myself a beverage, ideally a coffee or like a green juice, if you may, and I subsequently rolled all the way to downtown by Battery Park or Soho or Wall Street, if you may, and then subsequently ride back to Midtown and complete my trip for the day. So I rode for about, I don't even know how long, I think like 4 hours straight, nonstop. I mean, obviously, I take some breaks in between, get my juice, get my coffee, if you may, or even, stay hydrated. But today was a relatively cool day, so I definitely enjoyed the bike ride, if you may, right? And going back to the topic, I was on my way, home. Obviously reading up on the news, catching up myself on what's going on with Ethereum today. And I'm recording myself 6:10 p.m. on Eastern time. Currently, like the $2,662, up about 1.68% so far. And today's high was about 2,697. Basically, close to about 2,700, but we couldn't get there. So we couldn't ideally get to the $2,750 level resistance that we've identified so far, right? So I was like doing some investigations as to like what news has been percolating, the surge that we still seeing today, knowing the fact that we are Ethereum is the only one that's surging on the crypto side of the spectrum, right? While on the Bitcoin it's down about 3%, Dogecoin is down about 3% respectively, Cardano is down about 2% right now so far, and collectively speaking, on the news we have a lot of news coming out for Ethereum. But in terms of like how substantive is this collections of news that's been percolating for the last, I would say, 10 hours so far. Yeah, exactly 10 hours so far. And the news are collectively coming from Bazinga, Decrypt. Decrypt basically published like 4 articles in the span of like the last 3 hours so far. So it's kind of interesting. And so like just to like go through one by one, right? So Bazinga talks about an NFT game developer scam out of a 1 million NFT and Ethereum. So obviously this is just the news talking about the adoption for NFT and the gaming industry utilizing Ethereum. So someone got scammed. Obviously, it's a race for privacy issue, but it's almost like a pseudo plug. Just hyping Ethereum again, knowing the fact that yesterday, I think yesterday, right, or a couple of days ago was the birthday of Ethereum, right, being 6 years old, right. And then another one is talking about Mudassar. I don't know if I'm saying his name correctly. And this is coming from Decrypt. The title is saying friendship ended with Mudasa. Basically the guy that became famous with his memes. Sells his memes for 20 Ethereum as NFT. So another plug, not the most substantive news, surrounding Ethereum, but another news that brings up the keyword, the adjective Ethereum again, right? Another one is coming out. Founder of NFT Games loses 16 crypto punks and a bunch of Ethereum to scammer, right? So another regurgitating news on the Bazinga news. So, but this basically the same coverage coming from Decrypt 6 hours ago, right? And then another article that comes out from Decrypt, and this time is a just position news, comparing Ethereum versus Bitcoin on its growth. Obviously, knowing the fact that Ethereum has been surging in the recent time, in comparison to Bitcoin. Bitcoin has surged too, but obviously not as in terms of like the percentage has not been surging as progressively in comparison to Ethereum, right? So, but also in the article, it's a lot of adjective that obviously, you know, lean more towards one side of the spectrum, towards Ethereum versus Bitcoin. So it's another persuasive type of article that comes out, right? The Decrypt is definitely trying to pump Ethereum based on just how we read so far. Like there's like just a lot of some substantive news that's been percolating in the last 10 hours so far, just talking about or regurgitating or reinforcing the value proposition of Ethereum, right? And then another one coming from the Bazinga again. This is I think this is the one that I actually mentioned this morning when I first woke up. I read this already, and the title is basically saying the Ethereum London upgrades, which is the London fork upgrades, right, is expected to lower transaction fees and fight inflations with coin burns. So obviously another positive news that's propelling Ethereum to surge. And I know all of this news has got picked up internationally, and also in the mainland in the U.S. today, sustaining the buying pressure that we've been, being sustained for basically 11 days so far, ever since that B word summit that we got the confirmatory status from Elon Musk, Cathie Wood, and obviously Jack Dorsey's on their step of approval for Ethereum, right? And then the JP Morgan news, the Goldman Sachs news, and all the other positive news that we have been collecting so far. I would say 25 positive news so far, with a mixed bag of substantive versus like non-substantive news. But I would say the diversification of how substantive has this news been, I would say like, probably 15% has been actually new development and substantive news that is meaningful, while the rest are just plugs, if you may, right? 85% are just like regurgitating news, spin it in a way that looks like it's news. You know what I'm trying to say? So I'm going to go through technical analysis again, knowing the fact that we attempted to break through the 2,750, but we couldn't. So how will we look like going forward ahead of the London fork, knowing the fact that today's August 1st, so happy August, by the way, that we are basically a couple of days away from the Wednesday London fork, right? So stay tuned, stick around, let's make some money. Moving on to the technical analysis for Ethereum ticker ETH, I'm recording this at 6:17 p.m. on Eastern time. Current trade like the $2,654, up about 1.35% so far. So you can see that ever since the B word summit, we've been surging up and away. And collectively we have over 25 positive news that we've been keeping tabs so far, right? Obviously with the mixed bag of like based on your personal perception, based on my personal perception, I would say like 85% are just kind of fluff news, while at the 15% are actual substantive news that provide me more confidence, right? But there's a difference between bravados versus confidence, right? And I think based on what we see in the news, obviously we're describing the media affectation, not a person. The news are definitely leaning more towards the bravado, just like kind of fluffing, showing off, or regurgitating, reinforcing. It's almost like they try to overcompensate for maybe the lack thereof that we don't know, right, with respect to Ethereum value proposition. Obviously, Ethereum is something that is, still needs to further develop. It's something that is more relatively a new technology, a new asset class, right? And it's not completely finished. It's the reason why, obviously, the 2.0 is coming, right? It's the reason for the London fork debut that's expecting in a couple days from now, right? So I think, the news might be a little bit overdragged at the moment, right? And I think the chart is telling so, right? With respect to MACD, we've been crossed up ever since that golden cross. And that golden cross matches with what we were seeing, the 1750 surge all the way to the basically 2,700, right? And you can see that the RSI is highly overbought right now, right? Basically comparable to the historical trends. And I messed up the chart right now. Let me put this back here. To the historical charts, we should search up all the way to $4,383. But again, like I mentioned in the technical analysis video yesterday, knowing the fact that we have, crossed up for quite some time now, and if you were to repeat history, we are already in the 75% of the search that's already been captured. So we might have a little bit more room to run, but I don't see us like actually breaking through the $3,000 to be specific, right? Knowing the fact that at that level, 3,000, right? Let's just look at that $3,000. So let me just shift up this bar right here. 3,000, right? look at how many substantive levels that we have had. We have basically two, and I would even call that substance, right? It's basically one is a surge and one is a dip, right? And the dip was like a mega drop because of a whale that decided to dump a huge account, right? So that's no substance at this level. So if we were to break through the 3,000, right, the next level of the 3,000 would be 3,150, which we have identified before, right? But how likely can we get there, knowing the fact that we have run up so much already, right? So I think we might see some anticipatory pressure ahead of the London Fork debut, right? And I think we still have a couple of days, right? So Sunday is basically over now, right? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? So basically we have 3 days, of uh, of of surge, and I think we will see more positive news, which I'm not surprised that we will do, right? And then we will potentially get to the 2,750, even potentially leap up to be above 2,750, and it will look very comparable to this. That we will test maybe the 3,000, and then we will sell off from there. And once we get there, I think the timing should kind of match on the fourth, knowing the fact that, with respect to the MACD, we could stretch up for the next couple of days, right? Which makes sense. The timing matches, momentum matches. By that point, but the risk will be so high because the RSI is already overbought. We are overbought right now. We're touching the hot line right now. We're basically touching, the certain atmospheric pressure right now. That if you keep going, you're gonna be up in space. You will be losing oxygen, right? And you will be so pressurized that you'll you'll be forced to basically forced to drop down. And by what I mean by that, and in that analogy, is one of those whales are gonna be eyeing for that level when the RSI is high, that they're gonna drop it really really fast. It's comparable to the ones we see before, right? When they got to that 4,383, they squeeze it so much that they drop you extremely harsh, right? You could see that the cross was extremely sharp. It was literally like a free fall, right? And I hope that we don't get on that side of the coin when we have that sell off, right? So that's why do not chase the pump, right? Despite the positive pressure we've been having so far, a better opportunity will come, right? Remember, we've been screaming at the level of 1,750, the 2,150, the $2,050 before, right? If you were to buy now, the risk reward ratio would be relatively, it just wouldn't be an opportune time for you to buy, right? You don't want to incur that much risk for yourself, right? However, if you think about long term, that's fine, right? That's absolutely fine because we know that long term adoption is going to outgrow this, obviously, the current level that we at, right? And I also advise, possibly depending on, are you a long term investor, right? If you bought at the 1750 and you have like a couple Ethereum, right, and you want to maybe make a quick gains, selling at the at the current level or selling at the 2,750, want to even stretch it up a little bit, that's fine. You're securing profit, right? But that's a short term trade, based on the swing that we see. But do you want to be doing that, or do you want to be waiting? Do you want to pay tax on something like that, or do you want to just wait it out for that long term capital gains going forward? So it's up to you. It's up to your risk aversion. It's up to your risk mitigation. I can only give you what I see with no bias. I have no power to, or I have no rights to tell you what to do. But hopefully, understand the methodology that we're seeing, understand the chart clearly, and give you that structure will be important for you to, not use emotions and FOMO in going forward. To recap on numbers and technical analysis, again, right, the current level with respect to RSI and the MACD, we're very stretched right now, right, as we have been mentioning historically, right? It just requires a couple of negative consecutive news for the balloon to pop, and the sell-off could be relatively dramatic, right? So the risk is definitely increasing exponentially, and the London Fork debut should be a sell-off on that day, right? Is the typical buy the rumor, sell the news type of affectation, right? So I think an opportune time for you to buy would be probably on the day of the London fork, actually, or the day after when we cool down a little bit, because the technical is screaming extremely stretched and overbought at all level right now, right? Ideally, we would want to dollar cost average 2,150, 2,250, 2,450. But as you know, once you go up in price, the risk is increasing. So the risk is increasing right now, and the 2,750 is a substantive level, but we failed to break it today. But if we have more positive percolations tomorrow, we will get above there and potentially leap up to 3,000, and then we'll sell off from there. And I think the stretch time can, it's logical for us to reach there by the third or by the fourth and then sell off from there. And the sell off should be relatively sharp because the whales are eyeing this level and they know technical analysis, right? And I'm giving you that clarity, that structure. Hopefully, you are thinking like a whale as well, so you can counter what they're trying to do or manipulate the market going forward. But if you think about long term, 12 months price target 9,800, 4 times your money if you buy the 2,450. They respect my technical analysis on Ethereum ticket ETH. Hopefully this is helpful. Have a great rest of the Sunday. I know it's my last video that I'm doing today, and I've done 2 already. I wasn't planning on doing this one, but I was reading up the news and I wanted to, obviously report back and obviously keep you guys informed, knowing the fact that we have seen such a volatile time. I don't want people to make mistakes by losing money, because like losing money sucks, and I totally get it. And especially, it's a lot of emotions that's in play right now, and that's why I want to come in and speak on what I see in the charts, right? Charts tells the story, right? And emotions never really tells the full story, right? And hopefully, with the methodology that we use logically, it allows us to, risk mitigate as much as we can, so we can secure that long-term profit that we are looking for, right? Hopefully it's helpful. Yeah, again, if you have any questions, feel free to shout, and stay tuned for the next comment. Take care. Bye.